no regulatory committee.
No, and they can say that there is. They can say whatever they want. We're talking about the Red Cross. We're talking about World Vision, Oxfam, Save the Children. I mean, all these organizations that are at that level. The corruption that we see is so mind-blowing and blatant. I think it's what's so mind-blowing is how blatant that it is. It's so in your face. And it's, from day one since I've started this, and it's been about actually 15 years maybe that Can-Do's been around. And nothing's really changed. Like I say, it's a broken system, but the system, it's like the fox building the hen house. It's by design. I think what bothers me the most is just the fact that there is such a lack of accountability and transparency by these NGOs because they have been in the driver's seat for so long, unchecked. I'm not here to represent any organization but my own, and I'm here to represent the people that we serve. That's it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Breakthroughs with Jordan Murphy, conversations about the defining moments that shape our lives. Have another great show for you today. Eric Klein is with me today. Eric, how you doing?
How you doing?
So great to have you, man. I know that it's been, you're a very, very busy dude, and I appreciate your patience with me being a squeaky wheel.
No problem.
We've known each other for, over 10 years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, at least.
Yeah. So I want to give everybody a little bit of backdrop for those who don't know you, what you've been up to the last 10 years or so. No one defies stereotypes or clichés about aid organizations more than Eric Klein. Eric is the CEO and founder of Can-Do. Klein's track record cutting through red tape has produced lasting results in disaster-stricken areas in the U.S. and around the world. He started Can-Do in 2004 after being personally frustrated watching big-name organizations collect millions of dollars in donations but not showing any results. Fast forward 10 years. Klein hasn't slowed down. Trust me, I know this guy. He's not slowed down. Can-Do has since completed dozens of large-scale disaster and revitalization projects, including after Hurricane Isaac, Katrina, Sandy in the U.S., as well as Rwanda, Haiti, and other areas that are too often, this is the big thing, too often ignored. I mean, a lot of these disasters get lots of press, and many of them get lots of press, and then the press just kind of goes away, but the job's not done. And we'll talk about that more. Klein's unique approach to humanitarian aid, which includes hiring locals and employing U.S. military veterans, produces rapid results distributing food, water, medical supplies, and debris removal. Being transparent with donors is another key to Can-Do's success. They provide direct access to real-time updates from the field, live video streams, and completion videos after the project's wrap. Klein was awarded a Global Compassion Award at the United Nations for his achievements in international disaster relief efforts and humanitarian aid. It goes on and on. Bottom line is the guy should have a cape made. That's my opinion. And I know that you're a pretty humble guy. I also know that you are making an impact. I know that you know that.
Yeah.
But I'm clear that it's not an ego-driven, look how badass I am position.
Right.
What is it that inspired you? Obviously, it's in that paragraph in the website. The website, for those of you who don't know, is can-do.org. Can-do.org. And you obviously were frustrated. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that turning point for you.
Sure. Yeah, I always tell people this isn't like, I woke up one day and I'm like, I want to go to heaven and I'm going to go do, it was more along the lines of when I first started out, I would say like in 1997, when I got a first dose of like being on the ground was Hurricane Andrew. And I was going to school out there in Florida, and we were down in Homestead. A bunch of us went down there to put some blue roofs on roofs for people after Hurricane Andrew. And we were down there and we saw a guy, it was these trucks. We learned later that these trucks would be coming down from like Virginia, different states outside of Florida, and they were driving in ice chests, these ice trucks, and these ice trucks had blocks of ice. These people were selling these blocks of ice to these poor people that lost everything for like $50, $100 for a block of ice. The people were trying to save what was in the refrigerator. Anyway, we kind of saw this, and years later, as time went on, I moved out to New York City, and then I came out to California. It was right around 2004. It was when the tsunami hit. And I remember I just moved out here from New York City. And I remember we were watching it just like everyone else on CNN. We watched that little ticker down the bottom when this thing hit. And this was, at the time, we've never seen anything like this. We've never seen a disaster this big. This is the first time in our history we've ever seen anything on this level. Not to mention it was the first or the biggest humanitarian
coverage.
And also the humanitarian relief effort. As far as the money that was coming in, it was, I mean, if you remember, there was a ticker at the bottom of the screen, and it was like these countries were pledging money, people were pledging money, there was telethons and fundraisers, and it was just this huge outpouring of compassion, for these people out in Asia when this thing hit. Anyway, you fast forward about, I don't know, I think it was right around, basically I got in a car accident, whatever the time was, but I got in this car accident, and it was right around the exact same time this happened. And I remember about 2 months later being in rehab and coming out of the hospital. And I remember watching TV and laying up and watching this. And it was about 2 months later, and I'm watching people in Sri Lanka, and they're fighting over coconuts. And I remember thinking to myself, how in the world now they got billions of dollars is pouring into this little island, and it's months later. And we're seeing people now fighting over coconuts. And I'm thinking like, okay, look, I'm going to, literally at that point,
this isn't adding up. It's not adding up.
Yeah, it's like, right. And so, and I've always kind of been that guy that's always been questioning everything, and especially when it comes to this kind of thing. And I remember my dad saying to me, Eric, because I was always like, they're not doing anything and whatever. And he's like, look, Eric, you can't say that unless you're there on the ground. You can't say they're not doing anything. You don't know. You're not there. So I said, look, I'm going to take some of my money. I'm going to go to Sri Lanka. Like I said, at that time, if you showed me a map, it would point out Sri Lanka. I had no idea where we were going. I grabbed a buddy of mine, a couple of buddies of mine, and I said, let's go out for 10 days. We'll take 10 grand. We'll go for 10 days. And we'll just see how far we can spread $10,000. And we'll document it. We'll show how easy it is and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we get out there, and it was literally, I really had no itinerary. I had no direction as to where we were going. Nothing. We literally got off the plane. First guy we saw, closest hotel, went to the hotel, met the busboy, talked to the busboy. The busboy told us about this area called Mahamodara over in Gal. So we hopped in a truck. We drove out to this area, met some of the community. And from there on, it was just game on. We went from village to village to village. We started hiring locals. We were renting. I mean, you could rent a bulldozer back then for like $30 for the day. I mean, it was crazy. So we had bulldozers, and it was amazing.
Bulldozers and dump trucks, and
everything.
And did you pardon me? Did you hire labor, or did labor just come to you?
Yeah, it was more along the lines where we were taking care of people that were helping us. So, like, for example, we started, there was a lot of these little villages, they're all fishing villages along the coast. So you had Pedigalawala and Mahamodara, and so these are all fishing villages. So one of the problems was that no one was back to work, obviously. Their boats were destroyed and they had no nets. And so we said, hey, man, to a couple of these guys, we said, why don't you guys put together a service? We'll start repairing boats. I'll put up the money for the material. And then you guys, almost like that Kiva program where it's like, yeah, but they didn't have to pay us back. We were just like, look, here's the money, get you guys going.
Yeah.
Within a week, this guy had more boats piling up than he had to bring in more people. So this thing grew. So what happened was we went out, we bought the nets, and within a weekend, you could literally drive down Gal Road, and any of these villages we were working out of, these guys were back on the water fishing within a weekend. Right. So we just started going from village to village to village, and we started taking the debris and filling in. There was a lot of cesspools. There was a lot of bird flu. What was crazy was
contaminated, stagnant water.
Yeah. Right. And people were getting sick. And what was crazy, like I said, we showed up months later. Everyone was gone. You had small grassroots organizations like us that were on the ground, or individuals that were out there trying to help. But as far as the big boys, there was a presence there. But they weren't doing anything. There was banners up, but there was nobody there.
Well, it's funny. Pardon me. It's funny that what comes up when you talk about how you went about supporting them it went beyond bringing them some food and some water, and they give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Sure. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. It's like you were basically like saying, we're gonna rebuild your boats and your nets so you can start to take care of yourself.
Right.
Exactly. And rebuild your lives from within, so you're not reliant on our support ongoingly. But let's get to the source of what's been damaged here, and part of it obviously is their
infrastructure,
their income source.
Sure, infrastructure, income source. I mean, it was, we always say it's not a handout, it's a hand up. And like, so in this case, I fell in love with these guys. These guys are my boys. I mean, I still talk to a handful. I mean, a lot of these guys, I still talk to them regularly, weekly. Dulup, Sana, a lot of these guys we worked with are still our buddies of mine. These guys have gone on to do, my buddy Ranga is like a big DJ out in London. It's crazy though that these guys are all, still in our lives. And it's amazing because like I said, it was when we got out there, I always tell people this isn't brain surgery. It's not like, it's just literally, it's common sense solutions. It's coming out. My whole thing is, like I say, when we go out and do this kind of thing, we work directly with the community. So we embed with the community. I've said this to you before, is like we look at ourselves as contractors, right? Yeah. So like if you hire me as a contractor to come in and remodel your bathroom, I'm not going to come to your house and tell you what kind of toilets you're going to put in there, what kind of sinks or whatever. You're going to tell me. And that's kind of how we work with these communities. We bring the resources to them. They know what the hell they're doing. You don't need me coming into your home or your backyard and telling you how to rebuild your life. No. We obviously know kind of, the basics as far as what we need to do and sanitation and water and things like that. But again, we focus with the community on the things that they need done. You know what I mean?
You listen to them.
Yeah, right. I know, right?
As opposed to dictating, concept, right? As opposed to dictating it.
Right. That's right. Exactly. And the thing is also remember is by utilizing the community, you're instead of someone coming in and building something half-ass, you'd rather have the community. They're going to respect it. They built it. They're going to appreciate it more. And that's kind of the whole idea and philosophy behind how we roll. And we've been, like I said, we've been doing this for so long. And I didn't want to leave. I was out there for 3 months. I didn't want to come home. I got electrocuted, and I had to come home. But it was so nuts because, like I said, it was so easy. And obviously, that 10,000, we dropped a lot more on the ground. The exchange rate, I think, was like 100 to 1. So the things we were able to pull off was mind blowing. I mean, it was so crazy that. And it wasn't like we were coming, I don't want to give the impression like I'm sure people are hearing this thinking, oh, some, rich American coming out there and throwing his money around. Not at all. It wasn't that at all. It was literally just, we had the resources. I got that money from the lawsuit, from this car accident. If I talked about that, I think I brought it up at the beginning, but I got hit by a drunk driver and so basically it was like I said, common sense solutions. We just kind of worked with the village. We worked with other villages. We had people from where we would come in from one village and clean a village. And those people, after their village was cleaned, they would come with us and clean another village. And it was just things that were really unheard of. And especially in some of these villages, you had the dynamic where you had even the religions where you had, Buddhists and you had Catholics and you had, it was all just a melting pot of all these different. And so there was kind of this like influx of fighting within these communities because they've lost everything. The desperation kicks in. It's months later. You have bird flu. You have these sanitation is out of control. You still have dead bodies being dumped into holes with dry ice thrown on top of them. I mean, it was like it just happened. I always tell people, everyone's like they have this tough term with calling people survivors or victims during this thing. I always say that they're a survivor, within the 24 hours after this thing. It's after. It's when they become victims. They become victims of the system that was set up, that was designed. The system we use now is so broken. People say it's broken. I say it's actually working just fine for the people that invented it.
Right. I would say right. It's by design. By design, it's doing exactly what it should. Now, so let's pardon me. Let's switch gears just for a second here because this is obviously kind of getting into a new conversation, and this is also kind of like lighting a powder keg. But so just to kind of distinguish this, so. When I think of, and I think when most people think of disaster relief organizations, there's the big dogs, the names that come to mind, right? Yeah. And those names are probably going to come up in this conversation. But, for example, I remember the recent disaster that was not recent, but this was last year. And I remember I was at a Coldplay concert. And, we have these situations where all of a sudden it's all over the news. It's all over social media. People are raising money. Go fund me this, go fund me that. And I totally get it because we all want to help each other. And then all of a sudden you get this flash up on the thing or you hear it on your radio or you see it on your TV. If you want to help, text XYZ to such and such. And you're going to automatically be sending $10 somewhere. right? And for aid in this location. And this is not just Texas. I mean, this is just kind of how it goes, right?
Right.
There's almost like a pattern. Everybody gets super aware, super emotionally engaged. They look for how can I help? And most oftentimes, and I'm speaking for myself, it's easiest to just, click, 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 beep, 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 send. I can now go back and enjoy the rest of my evening.
Sure.
I've done my part. I've sent my $10 or my 20 or my 25 or 50 or 100, whatever it is.
Yep.
I've done my part and I can move on. Now, again, I know there are many other people, I'm sure, like yourself, obviously, who take it much further. But I think a majority of people do just that.
Right.
And then they're frustrated and they have conversations over dinner parties or at a bar or amongst themselves. And they it's so sad and it's, oh my God, what are we going to do? And no one does anything, really. No one does anything. They just complain about it.
Right. Or they assume someone else is doing something about it.
And they hope to God someone else is doing something about it. Right. Now, that money gets sent off to those big boys. And my understanding, obviously, is that there is an inordinate amount of administrative costs that are required to handle all of that. And a percentage of that, you would believe, a large percentage of that, you would hope, is going to the people who actually need it. However,
exactly. Yeah.
However, and
right, yeah.
This is where we kind of have this conversation about the whole notion of there being seemingly no watchdog out there of regulations.
Zero.
No regulatory committee.
No, and they can say that there is. They can say whatever they want. I mean, look, again, it's we're talking about the Red Cross. We're talking about World Vision, Oxfam, Save the Children. I mean, all these organizations that are at that level. Where
you're somebody who's been doing this for over a decade on the ground. This is not coming from like just a guy who's bitching and moaning about these big companies. You've seen literal manifestations of this problem in real time.
Absolutely. I mean, the corruption that we see is so mind-blowing and blatant. I think it's what's so mind-blowing is how blatant that it is. It's so in your face. And it's what's crazy is just like I said, it's, from day one since I've started this, and it's been about actually 15 years maybe that Can Do's been around. And nothing's really changed. Like I say, it's a broken system, but the system, it's like, it's like the fox building the hen house. You know what I'm saying? It's by design. So it's like, we're at that point where I feel like, through social media, I feel more people are starting to realize, hey, wait a minute. This organization got $1 billion or $500 million or whatever it is. I mean, look, we can talk about things that are out there right now. I mean, for example, the Red Cross in Haiti. Haiti's a great example because it's a blank canvas, right? Haiti was wiped out. Tiny little area the size of like Manhattan or whatever it is. The number they say was about 22 to 20,000, something around there, NGOs like myself on the ground, nonprofits on the ground in Haiti. Tiny little area. Think about that. 20,000 are on the ground.
Wow.
Organizations, Red Cross, the big boys and the small guys. And Haiti looks like it did a freaking week after the earthquake. And if anybody wants to come on, everyone wants to challenge that, look, man, go to Haiti and see it for yourself. Haiti looks no different. The amount of money that they got, they could have rebuilt that entire freaking, Port-au-Prince. They could have, you don't drive around Haiti and go, there's a new school, there's a new hospital, there's a new, no. It's that money was absorbed into administrative costs. That money was taken. However, wherever that money went, like I said, it was a disgrace. When we hear these people come on every year when they do the anniversary of this thing, and you listen to these, these newscasters, people coming on, these sob stories about Haiti. Come on, man. I mean, look at what they did to this island. I mean, what they did to these people. They completely took advantage of it. And again, this is something that goes on. I'm talking about the Red Cross. Why not? Look, they said that they raised $500 million, $500,000, right? They claim that they built, I don't know how many homes, 2,000 homes, whatever it was. Well, when push came to shove and they actually dug in to see what they did, they built one home or 3 homes, I believe. And I think it was through the CARE organization. Point being is, where did all that money go? And there's a ProPublica articles that's out. I think there's a couple of them. They did a 2-part piece that came out, I think, a few years back. And it's a great article that kind of sums up what happened out there. But again, that's this happens on such a larger scale. I mean, this happens all the time. And I told you that my whole drive in this thing was literally out of anger. It was seeing this corruption and watching like in the kind of things that you can actually pull off, like we did in, like, say, Sri Lanka or the Gulf Coast. I think what bothers me the most is just the fact that there is such a lack of accountability and transparency by these NGOs, because they have been in the driver's seat for so long, unchecked. Say whatever you want about these phony, made up websites where you can go and check the status of these organizations to see if they're credible. Give me a break. I mean, like, Watchdog. There's so many that are out there, and I feel like it's all bullshit.
It's
all
really part of the same. It's all part of the same system as what you're proposing, right? So
it is.
So okay, so you're doing something that is obviously, from what from what you share, from what your website presents, from what you've experienced, is you're taking somebody donates $100,000. You take that $100,000, you go to whatever state or city you're going to, and you use all of that money to help rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, we look at ourselves as contractors, right? So the donor,
but you're not taking any administrative costs. You're not taking salary.
No,
you're not paying people. You're not making sure the computers stay on. I mean, I guess the question is how, because obviously you could get some pencil pusher, somebody who represents these larger, organizations to give a very intelligent explanation as to why these costs need to be covered. And people go, oh, okay, I understand that. And they say, oh, well, 40% of it goes to where it needs to go and 60% of it, whatever.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Right, whatever. But how are you, and, I know you do this all the time, unless you're Bruce Wayne and are independently wealthy, I'm just, how, and I know a regular person, you're a regular guy. You are not Bruce Wayne. I know that. How are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to the organization, we've never done any kind of real fundraisers. We have people that kind of will step out and dig the organization, say, hey, you mind if we do a fundraiser for you? We raise some money here and there.
Like angel investors?
Yeah, we have angel investors. Yeah, so we have people that come in that have been with us for a while that know what we do. So when the shit hits the fan, so to speak, we have people that kind of step out and help fund our projects. We go to them, we say, hey, here's what we're looking to do. And again, we're kind of like, we come in as first responders. We work, food, water, medical, triage, things like that. But then our whole kind of MO is that we stay when the cameras pack up and everyone goes home. Like we always say, that's when the real disaster happens. So that's what we stay back and say, okay, let's kind of embed with this community and figure out what the hell we need to do here. Because like I said, that's when the shit goes down. I mean, when everyone's gone, no one's looking anymore, and the money's gone, and the organizations are gone, and everyone packs up and takes off. That's when people become desperate. That's when people become, and we're seeing this right now in California with the wildfires. You're seeing it in Florida. We just had Hurricane Michael, North Carolina. There's people still living in freaking tents, man.
Well, you even talked to me about, and I think this is an interesting point to shed a light on that goes beyond making sure that there's water and food and clothes and things like that, right?
Yeah,
but is, like you said, the aftermath of how do these people who are now in this aftermath going to acquire or get the aid ongoingly, and now they have to step into a bureaucratic quagmire.
Good, right, exactly.
And I remember talking about, like, part of what you guys are doing sometimes is sitting in someone's home with a 75-year-old guy who needs to fill out paperwork.
Well, yeah, see, that's exactly it. So, again, when I talk about this being by design, the system, it's like, I'm going to give you a million examples, but let's just talk about recently, like the wildfires. They're telling people that debris removal, okay, for example, this sounds, not the greatest example, but it's what's happening right now. So, like, for example, they have debris removal services that come out. If you don't have insurance, you don't get debris removal unless you fill out this form. Well, you got to fill out a form, and that form has to be in before a certain date. If you're 70, 80 years old, you don't know how to work a computer. You don't know how, a lot of the information that's being disseminated, it's not being disseminated correctly. It's not getting out to the people in the right way. I mean, again, you have to remember that a lot of these communities, this is the first time they're going through it. You know what I'm saying? It's like I was down in Texas.
Of course, no one's prepared. No one's prepared for a natural disaster.
Right, exactly. So it's like they're doing their best. I told you when we were out in Texas, Hurricane Harvey, we rolled down there and we found the mayor and a couple of the people that worked with her, like outside in the pouring rain, trying to cover pallets of water with a tarp. And, like I said, when we come into these areas or whatever that have been affected, we don't come in there like gangbusters, with cameras rolling and the whole thing, which you kind of see a lot nowadays because of Facebook and things like that. We do come in under the radar. The first persons that we do reach out to are local officials to kind of find out where they're at. And we always say that we're not coming in here to step on your toes or to take over we're simply coming in to help enhance whatever operation you have going on the ground right now. And
how do you, as an ordinary, regular guy, you know what I'm saying? Like you're not, you don't come from a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar background with family. You don't have a trust fund. I mean, and yet you will go off for weeks or months at a time. How do you have the freedom to because you think about it, people might listen to this and go, oh, well, that's easy for him. He's probably got like, independent wealth or, whatever it is. I kind of want people that transparency to be there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, look, I do speaking engagements. I do things like that. I do okay. Right now I'm all right. And like I say, we're in the field. We're living in the field like everybody else. We're not staying in, $500 hotels and driving $100,000, SVUs. I mean, we're literally, we embed with the community. We stay with the communities and work within that community. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, and people always ask, it's always like, well, how do you know what to do? And how do you, it's a real simple answer. It's like, if your home was wiped out and you and your wife and your kid, you guys are sitting on your slab and I come along and I hand you a suitcase full of money, right? You're going to know what to do. 4 walls, roof, food, plate to put the food on. You're going to figure out what it is you need to do. When I say it's not brain surgery, every disaster is different, and which means every project is different, right? We tailor make every project by sitting down with the community and figuring out exactly what the need is and what they want to do. And then what we do is we go and bring those resources in. When we talk about these bigger organizations, we talk about these NGOs that rake in all this money, and I've tend to be very vocal about it. I always say,
it sounds like not a lot of people have been vocal or vocal enough, which
that's right. That's what pisses me off. That's one of the things it's one of my pet peeves. It's one of these things now. I've been doing this for so long. It bothers the shit out of me when I run into the same people in the field, and they're Facebooking about it as if everything's cool, and they're given this false impression because they want to look cool on their Facebook page or whatever the case may be. And I'm not knocking people for wanting to help. What I'm knocking people for is, I gave you this example before, or analogy. It's like, if it was you, if your family was wiped out and you're watching TV and or whatever, and you're seeing all this money pouring into your neighborhood to help your family, and they're exploiting your neighborhood and your family, and and you're sitting on your slab, and a month later, nothing's coming in. 2 months later, nothing's rolling in. They're still raking in money, telethons, everything else. And it's 6 months later, and you're still sitting on your slab. What, you're just going to sit there and not say anything? Of course not. You're going to be bullshit. And the problem is that those people don't have a voice, so it's our responsibility. I've said this before. It's a privilege for us to be there. It's an honor to be there. Like, we're lucky to be able to walk into, you know what I mean? It's a privilege. Someone's lost everything, and here we come to be in that situation.
I think that's a big difference is the intention that you come at it, because it's not necessarily look how good I am. I'm a superhero and I'm gonna save the day, but more of a this is what human nature does want to help each other. We do. We want to help each other. However, it seems that there's this weird disconnect, man, that happens when we get all really excited about something. We all want to help, and then it just dissipates. It falls away. And I think the main thing for me, at least before we talked, before we decided we were going to do this conversation, was not only is anytime I see something that you are posting about, I always want to try to share about it on social media and let people know to say, look,
appreciate it.
Don't just knee jerk your contribution to the easiest route. Consider looking at some options, considering looking past what you know, and explore, and maybe even go beyond what you think you know and dig a little deeper into what the organization is actually doing. What are they really doing? And you can do that with your organization. With CanDo.org, you can go on, you can look at what you guys have done, you can see footage of what you guys have done, and you even went so far as to say that you guys recently even started publishing bank statements of your company, which is cuckoo. But it's like that's the kind of transparency to a certain degree. If you're going to say the money is going a certain way. Now, here's the thing. I don't know, honestly. I don't know what the narrative is that Red Cross, for example, might have about we take in this much money, this percentage goes, you know what I mean? I don't know how transparent they are about what they say is happening. I don't know.
I mean, well, I always tell you pie charts and graphs don't mean shit. I mean, you can show me a pie chart and tell me this is how much is spent, but until I actually see it, like, again, I mean, you can go to any place that there's been a disaster and you can go there and see for yourself. And then you look at the amount of money and it's so disproportionate.
If you're not seeing actual structures built when you've got billions of dollars, there's something amiss.
Of course, man. When you're seeing these NGOs driving around in brand new $100,000, Range Rovers or Land Cruiser, whatever, it's in Haiti, it's ridiculous. Like it's the amount of money. I always say this, and there's a good analogy I use, to show, like, because coming in and saying, they're not doing anything. Well, someone can argue, well, that's not true, right? But what I mean by being so disproportionate is, and this is the analogy I always give people, is let's say you and I are, let's say that we're all about homeless, feeding the homeless, and that's our big, And for years, we put up the website, we do press releases, and we're trying to raise money, and we're always trying to help feed the homeless, whatever. One day we go across the street to 7-Eleven, we get a big gulp and a scratch ticket and come out and hit the thing, $1 million. We hit the lottery for $1 million. Now we got $1 million. Holy shit, we can help the homeless, right? We run across the street, McDonald's, we buy 10 Happy Meals, we run across the street to Skid Row, and we pass out 10 Happy Meals. We take pictures, we take videos, there's hugging the guy, you handing him the food, him with a big smile on his face, right? And we put together this really, this imagery, and we put up on the website, and then we're done. Well, did we do something? Yeah, we did something. But what did we do? With that much money, what could we have done? You see what I'm saying? We still got $999 in the bank still. We only spent, $30. We did something, though. You can't say we didn't do anything. Go to my website. Look at all those smiling faces.
Right.
It's smoke and mirrors, man. It's literally that's what it has come to. And it's like now we're in this age with social media where there's no reason that these big organizations are not showing you what they're doing with that amount of money. We're not talking a couple $100,000. We're talking billions of dollars that comes in. And people might think, oh, you know what? He doesn't, that money still, trust me, that money, a tiny fraction gets on the ground. That's a fact. And again, I would say, don't take my word for it. Go talk to the people in these places. Go look it up for yourself. Go down to some of these areas. Go down to Rose City. Go down to Haiti. Go to wherever. It's like you can see it with your own eyes. This isn't like people say I have an axe to grind. It's not that. It's my responsibility though to speak up for these people. These people have are being victimized or being used by these organizations. They're being exploited. And they have been for years. This has been going on. There is no accountability. No one's held accountable in the way of the kind of money that they're bringing in and what the actual outcome or impact is on the ground. This has been going on forever. And it's like people are starting to wake up to this. I think now people are starting to realize. And again, that's why in Texas we said, you know what, man, screw it. We're going to start putting our bank statements online. Any money that comes in, you're going to see a balance, and you'll see how much is there. And when we leave, we're going to leave in the red. We're going to leave with zero, and we're going to show you how. For example, in Rose City, we raised, I think, on Facebook. I mean, of all places, we raised like $100,000 on Facebook, and we sat down with Mayor Miss Bonnie. I love her. She's like my aunt. She's the mayor of Rose City. We sat down with her, and we said, hey, what can we do for the community here? We got $100,000 we raised. What do we want to do? So we looked at the people that were coming back, that were rebuilding. We said, well, why don't we break this money up into gift cards? That way they can go to Lowe's. Lowe's is one of our sponsors. And, they can go and they can buy a washer or dryer, whatever it is they need. And so like I said, we divided that money up against the amount of the people that were coming back. And that's what we did. But we left with zero. That money was all disseminated, was passed out through the community by the time we were gone. And people saw this and were like, and this is kind of what we want to create is, we want people to know that when you donate to Can-Do, when you donate to this organization, there is no red tape. If you go to, noredtape.org, that'll also get you there.
It seems like you said, it is simple, but unfortunately the system has really complicated the actual solution.
Yeah, I mean, they've cornered the market. I mean, like you say, I mean, it's, I just did a video recently. I was up in up north, up in Paradise. They got a station set up in Chico. Mm-hmm. And look, I don't want to get into this whole thing. I mean, like I said, people that knows me know that this is one of my talking points, the corruption. Right. It's bullshit. I mean, we see it all the time. But like up there in Chico, when we went up there, we went out to pass out some gift cards and kind of meet with some of the community people and kind of just get an idea of what was happening out there. Mm-hmm. And we weren't allowed into this area because the Red Cross and they were running this distribution site where people were staying. And I understand policies and procedures and yada 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 and how. But the thing is it's this false impression. I mean, look, when we were in Texas during Harvey, you had the Salvation Army driving around passing out Gatorade and prayers. And I'm not just saying that people need Gatorade and prayers, but disproportionate. When you look at how much money was raised, there should be more going on. Now, what they do is they say that they give out grants, right? Bullshit. Go find somebody that's gotten these grants. The Red Cross, I think, passes out. They do like a $500 grant thing. But again, if you listen to anybody that goes through the process,
yeah, right, exactly. The red tape of getting the grant.
They never get it. It never happens. Either they lost their information. You got to reappeal. You got to go to the appeals process.
It sounds like the insurance. It sounds like the insurance kind of.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's designed to do that. So imagine if you're a 60, 70, 80-year-old person and you're trying to figure out, and that's why people end up dipping into their 401ks, the retirement money, to whatever. And then that's it. They shouldn't be doing that. People are donating all this money to help these people. Those people should get that help. That money should go to help these people. I don't give a shit if you have 100 people pushing pens and papers around a freaking desk somewhere in an office that you need to pay. Well, guess what? Then you shouldn't be freaking in this fucking business. I'm serious. It aggravates me so much, and I'm trying to keep myself level right now because the more I talk about this, it's like I don't want to come across like a freaking crazy person. But again, that's what I said to you. That's what I said to you. It's like lighting a powder keg. I know that this is a very inciting conversation for you, and I think it's obvious because you've been there. You've seen it. So and you see the victims of it, and it hurts you. It literally impacts you. So of course you're passionate about it because you're somebody who wants to protect, defend. And we know how easy it is. But the thing is, we know how easy it is. This isn't, I always say, it's not brain surgery. It's like this should be set up. The system that we've had in place for so many years doesn't work. So my thing is this. If you're going to be that guy that's going to go out into the field because you want to help, it doesn't stop when you leave. Because you are now that person, the voice for that community. Yeah. You need to speak up and stop giving this false impression. I always say people are cowards in this business. They're freaking cowards. Because they'll come out into the field and they'll see this and they'll ignore it, or they won't acknowledge that it's happening. They won't, and it's right in your face. This isn't something where I'm just making this shit up because I'm trying to push my organization.
Well, you told me a story. You told me a story, and I don't know exactly where it was, but you were taking food, water, supplies to an orphanage in the middle of nowhere. And when you got there, you found out that there was a facility, a large warehouse facility with supplies, food, etc., walking distance, well, not walking distance, but close to the orphanage that no one was bringing to the orphanage. And it wasn't your supplies, it was one of the larger companies. Yeah,
it's a scam. It's one of the biggest ones out there. It was, I don't care. It was Food for the Poor. Food for the Poor has got a humongous warehouse that's just, packed. I mean, when we got there, I remember there's a video that I have of the tarmac at the airport. And this was about a month later this was during the Haiti earthquake. It was like 6 football fields of supplies. It looks like, remember at the end of, Oh God, what was the movie? I'm blanking on it. Raiders of the Lost Ark. At the end of the movie, when they open up that thing and they
where they hide the ark, where they put the ark.
And there's just like millions of crates. That's what it looks like. That's what it looked like. Wow. And this is what we see in all these disasters. All this stuff comes out. You saw it in Puerto Rico,
and it's just sitting there.
It doesn't get out. It doesn't
not
get
being
out.
distributed.
We've seen stuff that shows up in disasters that marked from disasters from 4 years past. The stuff just never makes it out. They repurpose it. I mean, it's again, if you really did a deep dive into the how things work as far as these organizations and how they're designed to do what they do. There's a reason they have the kind of money that they do. And it's mind blowing.
That is the crux of it, unfortunately. And you and I have talked about this offline, but the notion that something so dramatic needs to shift, because to complain about it is not going to do anything, right? We know that.
Yeah.
But it's so entrenched. It's so a part of the infrastructure. And this goes into even how broken our government is in general. I mean, our government is broken. I don't care who you put in office. It's still going to be a broken government, So this system is broken. What is required, this is my assertion, obviously, is a paradigm shift. Like literally, things need to be done in a way they've not ever been done. Now, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what that is, but to keep on doing it this way and to think it's going to suddenly change, or to do it in a way that's going to somehow combat them when they're so big, it's very difficult to do it, and it's going to require something like almost internal. That's going to, I mean, on their part, something internal is going to have to shift in those companies to get what's missing, to get what's broken.
Well, people need to realize, a bird can't fly with one wing. So again, it's by design. It's like, look at what the talking points that are in our media right now, what we're talking about. It's the same shit. You go back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. What are we talking about 40 years ago, 50 years ago? Same shit. North Korea, right?
Yeah.
Healthcare. Yeah. Immigration. It's all the same shit.
Climate.
It's just a talking point.
Yep.
Right. Climate change. It's all to keep us all spun up doing what we're doing now, arguing with each other. People have become it's ridiculous. We've talked about this before, this whole group think bullshit, where people can't think for themselves now. I always tell people always like, what are you, Democrat, Republican, what? And I always say neither, man, because I can hold two truths in my head at the same time. and it's like that's where I feel people are at. People can't hold two truths in their head at the same freaking time anymore. And it's like their logic went out the effing window because either they hate the president, whether it's Trump or Obama, it doesn't matter. There's this hatred where the media just piles on. And next thing you know, it's like, I say they got us fighting over the stupidest shit. It's like there's things happening right now that if we came together collectively, just a little bit, everyone took a right step to the right, the other guys took a step to the left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what needs to happen.
No,
because our government
exactly.
Is do it.
There needs to be a conversation not about who's right and who's wrong. Right. That's the biggest issue seems to be, no, I'm right, you're wrong. And I mean, the thing is, I know that there are plenty of right-wing Trump supporters who are fucking insane. I also know there are plenty of right-wing Trump supporters who are brilliant, intelligent, evolved human beings who just don't get it. Who just and now that's my opinion. And on the flip side, they feel the same way about us. They think we're completely dumb, completely idiotic. We don't know what's going on. So we're so polarized that and then what we do is, because there's so much information out there, no matter where you stand, you can go on the internet and find an argument to support your position. Period.
Sure.
So if you believe in the earth being flat, you'll find it. Right. And you'll find these very compelling arguments as to why that is. If you believe a wall should be built, you'll find it. I mean, there's these really compelling, seemingly truthful, factual based, whatever, to support whatever position you have. The bottom line is great. So let's say that that's the truth. How are we doing?
Yeah, exactly.
How are we doing?
Right.
Where are we? We are in a psychotic quagmire. Yeah. That's what we are. Our country, our world is in a psychotic nightmare. that just keeps on spinning and spinning and spinning. They spew rhetoric and this narrative that has been broadcast to them through media channels. And honestly, we're all guilty of it, whether it's a liberal media channel or a conservative media channel. We're all regurgitating either side.
Which is the problem right now. This is the big problem we're having right now, is that people don't want to pay attention, and it's this big group think movement on both sides.
And make up their own mind. Exactly, make up their own mind.
It's ridiculous. And I feel like there's more of us than there are of them, meaning that, look, you can take away whatever you want. People, the problem is, like I said, people are reading the headlines but not reading the article. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like they're basing everything on something they heard at a party. They're regurgitating what Bill Maher said last night or whatever it is. And it's like, but they have absolutely no freaking idea what's going on. I mean, it's
and no matter who you are and no matter what you believe, you're going to find plenty of content out there to support that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So if you're not looking for a contrary opinion, you're not going to find it because you're not looking for it.
And you're not going to really get the truth either. Yeah.
And if you hear it, I mean, I remember listening to a conversation about the Fed and about what Trump is doing specifically around the economic situation that we're in, and this whole our economy is booming and our unemployment is down and the whole thing. But it's like, you got to drill past the headline on like, what's he really doing? What's the long game?
Right.
The short game might show some numbers that look very attractive. But if you play this out 2, 3, 5, 10 years, what's really going on?
Right.
And people, this is not what I'm going to get into, but I mean, I think the point here that I think we're both sharing and screaming about is inviting people to look past the surface.
Yeah.
Just look past the surface.
Right.
And again, I am not perfect at this either. I'm saying this because I could stand to do the same, and I've done my best over the last few years to do that on a more conscious level. First of all, I don't watch, really. We talked about this recently. I don't watch the news.
Right.
Because I don't want to be told what to think.
Right.
And I feel like that's what's happening.
Right. But see, here's the thing. People say that, like, when people tell me they don't watch the news, they don't pay attention to the news. The problem is you're still affected by what's going on out there. That's the whole thing. And for me, it's like, I think it's like we're losing our minds. I can't believe we've gotten to the point. Like I almost avoid social media now because I just can't even believe some of the things that are coming out of people's mouths. Smart people that are looking at this. It's like, as far as Trump's concerned, hey man, I get it. You know what I mean? But it's like your hatred for one guy. It's like that saying where it's like, you want the country to fail because you hate the president. That's like saying I want the plane to crash. I hate the pilots. I want the plane to crash and flying on. Right. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like it's. And I'm not saying everyone has to get behind and support or whatever it is. My point is that know what you're talking about. Know what the hell you're teaching your kids. Know what is really going on, and don't sit there and take these talking points from CNN or Fox News. And think that's gospel, and then all of a sudden you're putting this in your kid's head, or teachers are out there in these colleges and stuff teaching these kids, and it's like, I gave you an example, perfect example. The other night, me and Danielle, a couple weeks ago, remember the whole and I don't want to get into a whole political thing because it's so hard to really get in, but this is just an example of what I'm talking about. When the caravan was coming across, right? I remember watching this live. Right. And I'm watching this and I was watching it on CNN. And like I said, I don't watch CNN. I don't watch how do you get what you would consider to be factual intel? How do you Danielle. You know what I mean? Like, I got an inside track here.
Can you tell me who Danielle is? I know who Danielle is. You mind?
No, Danielle DeLorto. She's senior producer over at NBC. She's amazing. She's got more integrity, I think, than anybody out there.
Right. So she has an inside or a different kind of a line, obviously, than an ordinary person to the kind of information that is disseminated usually through the media.
Exactly. And so she sees a lot of things coming in. And, I'm not going to talk too much on that. But basically, like I was saying, when we were watching this caravan, and we were watching all these people coming over, and it was, a lot of men. It was like, I think what we were watching on TV, and they were throwing rocks and bottles at the Border Patrol. Now,
so this is a caravan coming across the border into. Were they coming into Texas?
They're coming right up to the border. Yeah, and it was basically that we had the United States Border Patrol on one side, and they came up and they were throwing rocks and bottles. Now, what's crazy is people will hear me talking and think I'm a bigot or a racist or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you can't even have a conversation nowadays about anything because people automatically assume, because they hear a talking point, they automatically assume and jump to conclusions.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is that what I saw on TV, a bunch of people throwing rocks at the Border Patrol, and you see a woman and kid, and the gas canister came over the wall, and then all of a sudden it was like, I remember we watched 45 minutes or 30 minutes of this caravan, and trust me, man, like, I'm just being real. Like, it wasn't women and children. Like, it wasn't this and I'm not saying that. See, this is what I'm saying. We have to preface it everything we freaking say, right? But it's like my point is they took that image, and that image became, the poster child, that little family there, and then they took that and ran with it. And the whole thing, when you talk about the border, and this is where I'm not going to, like I said, I don't want to get all political here, but let's just talk common sense, okay? Right or left, doesn't matter, right? When you talk about a wall, this is what I don't get. And I would love, I'd love to hear your take on this, but what I don't understand is people talk about the wall as if it's such a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. When you hear, liberals or people on the left talk, they're always talking about this humanitarian crisis and blah, blah. Of course it is. It has been for a long time, right? But my thing is this. Let's take immigration out of it. Where do you think the guns and the drugs and the human trafficking, people are being driven, guns are being driven over the borders? Like, this is what I don't understand, is why people can't agree. And I get both sides. I understand both arguments. Mm-hmm. But both are so polar opposite. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's black or white. Unfortunately, it's black or it's white, and it's just not black or white.
Right. But how can you be screaming about gun control, and then you're leaving your back door open?
Now, when you say back door, so let me just understand. So when you say Border Patrol, I am not educated at all, really, as to how protected or not protected our border is.
Yeah, there's miles of border that's wide open.
Okay.
I mean, that people can drive over. It's ridiculous. You have I think it's 8 points along the border. And I think each
so it's undermanned. It's undermanned as far as the ability to police that much land, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, but if you look at this, we've been talking about this. It's like a loop. Danielle, I was going to say, it's like a loop. It's like we're talking about the same crap we were talking about 10 years ago, right. 20 years ago, 30 years, 40 years. It's the same exact. It's North Korea. It's healthcare.
Gun control.
Climate. Yeah. So I always say this. This is where I always end my conversations when it's not getting political, because this is what, to me, the big problem that no one wants. It's like they got us looking at the birdie when they're
Yeah, like here, there's a shiny object over here, so we can do this over there.
Right. And so CBS ran a story a few months back, and it was about the opioid crisis. And I might botch this story a little bit, but you get the gist. And basically what it was is the DEA, there was a whistleblower that came out of the DEA. He was a top dude. He's been there forever. And the DEA has been, again, I'm going to botch this story, but I'll do my best here. Basically, they've been watching this. I think there's maybe 4 major pharmaceutical companies, and I think one of the top pharmaceutical companies, they've been basically under surveillance. They've been watching these guys for years and years and years. They're about to close the case on this, and this is like amidst the biggest opioid crisis we've ever seen, right? Mm-hmm. Fentanyl. I mean, I can't believe in my small hometown of Salem, Massachusetts, that we've got a fentanyl problem. Police are driving around with narco because they have 1 or 2 ODs every night because people are ODing on this crap. Right. Well, I think NBC just did a ride along with the Border Patrol, and I think they seized, I don't know how many tons of fentanyl being brought over the borders. But my point is that, you have.
Just so if anybody wants to kind of get a little bit more clarity around this, there was actually, I believe it was 60 Minutes, October of 2017, the Washington Post. With the Washington Post for a Peabody Award-winning report about how the Drug Enforcement Administration was hindered in its attempts to hold the pharmaceutical industry accountable.
Let's just cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Here's what they did. They basically, Congress passed a law in Congress on the floor. And basically it said that the DEA had to step down from investigating this pharmaceutical company. That's where it all ends for me. That's where I'm just like, I'm done. I don't need to talk about anything else. If we don't give a shit about that, if our own government is passing laws to make our DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, step down from going after one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world that's basically dumping fentanyl and oxy and everything else on our streets.
Right.
And we're all going to sit around and go, oh, we don't like what Melania Trump's wearing. Or we're going to it's like people are, you know, see what I'm saying? It's like people are
dude,
so.
I hear you. I mean, it says as cases nearly ground to a halt as the DEA, the drug industry, began lobbying Congress for legislation that would limit the agency's enforcement powers. Congress passed a law that took away the most potent tool the DEA has, the ability to immediately freeze suspicious shipments of prescription narcotics to keep drugs off American streets. That's from an article on CBS News regarding the 60-minute special. If anybody wants to, take a look a little bit closer.
Anybody to go see that. I mean, if go look it up and watch that. You want to get your mind blown.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the things that we need to collectively be coming together on. If you want to stop everyone's like, it's like I said, it's all or nothing with people. And it's like, there has to be compromise, obviously. You know what I mean? And the fact that people are so divided over their hatred towards one man, like I said, I get it. But the fact of the matter is that what are you going to do? Stomp your feet and scream and yell? Or are you going to try to fix the problem? You know, it's like gun control. It's like, we can all agree that people that are heavily medicated shouldn't be getting guns. Right. These gun shows shouldn't be selling, it just, there are certain things that we can all agree on.
Yeah, common sense. It's common sense.
But it's all by design. You know, at the end of the day, I would say the same
it's
thing.
common sense.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I mean, you and I we agree on a number of issues on this, and it's easy to get fired up about all of them. Mm-hmm. What I'm wondering, just kind of in a gear shift, is so much obviously of your focus is 10 days. And yet, obviously, you are in a relationship with somebody who is close to this kind of information that not all of us are privy to. So you get a kind of a behind-the-scenes look at stuff that could probably irritate most people, right? What do you do? 'Cause we've talked about this. What do you do, considering what you see, to stay sane?
I drink a lot. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I
mean, the thing is, you're like one of the healthiest looking guys I know. I mean, you are a brick shithouse when it comes to your athleticism. You compete in those Titan or Spartans, crazy ass things where you're like running through mud and obstacle courses. I mean, so you're a healthy guy. So obviously, I got to believe that that's part of your ability to exercise some of, I mean, I don't mean exercise your muscle, but exercise some of the demons of your frustration.
That and midlife crisis,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a release for me, you know? I mean, I do a little martial arts and things like that just to I'm in the gym a lot, but it's literally, it's I don't know, it's just to clear my head. I'm in the sauna, yoga, whatever.
So exercise is a part of your regimen.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I used to smoke a lot. I was smoking up to over a pack a day.
Wow.
And it was because, it just sounds like such an excuse, but I was in the field, and when you're in places like Sri Lanka and there's been I'm just using that as an example, there's been a disaster. Well, what you're eating isn't always the best thing. So we didn't tend to eat a lot. We'd smoke cigarettes because cigarettes kind of curbed our appetite.
Sure.
So Haiti, the same thing. So I was smoking constantly, and then all of a sudden, you get to that point where it's like, you get a little older and you're trying to maintain, you know what I mean?
Well, you got to clean up your act. You got to clean up your act.
Absolutely. And smoking to me was one of those things where it's like, I've always wanted to quit. And I'll tell you something, man, I went to a hypnotist. Okay. And I'm not one of these people that is easily hypnotized, or I'm a pretty big skeptic when it comes to all this stuff, but
not easily persuaded.
Yeah, I mean, I got to see it to believe it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? If you could, but so I went into this woman. She was 100% guaranteed. Her name is Rita Black. She's phenomenal. Anybody out there wants to quit smoking? This woman is unbelievable. I went to her 30 minutes, I think 40 minutes. I walked out. I haven't had a cigarette since, and that's been about 4 or 5 years now.
Wow.
She is phenomenal. She's a money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work, get your money back, get on the loose, And so, yeah, I remember.
And is she is she in Los Angeles?
Yeah, she's in Los Angeles.
Does she do remote? Does she do remote?
It's a good question. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, some of these doctors these days, specifically with Skype or FaceTime, you can do certain things remote.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like hypnotherapy would be one of them.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, what do I know? It's funny though, because I had my brother on, interviewed him a few months ago about hypnotism, and he was wanting to stop smoking pot.
Yeah.
And same thing, same reason.
Yeah.
But your experience was positive. It was a one-stop shop though, which is pretty impressive.
It was crazy. I mean, you got to want to quit.
That's what I was going to say. You had to. You wanted to quit.
I mean, I had a pack of cigarettes in my front seats when I got out to smoke a cigarette. I mean, I went to this thing going, I was just kind of jokey, and I was like, I did it because someone, I mean, I came out of there and literally almost had no recollection of even smoking cigarettes. And it's like people smoke around me all the time. I don't want one. I don't crave one.
No, I mean, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I mean, I obviously, there were many years where, growing up in Northern California, I was not surrounded by, but there was, I'll take that back. I wasn't surrounded. There was not a horrible influence around me. However, I was young and curious, and I did find it, but I wasn't like a total madman. And then I moved to Los Angeles and was in a relationship, and then ended that relationship and was suddenly a single guy in Los Angeles. But it'd been like the oldest of 3 boys, and was always kind of like did the right thing, right? And here I was, single, living in Los Angeles, and for the first time I was like, fuck that, man. Yeah. I literally had my own private 60s for like 2 years. I was like, anything goes, bitches. I was like, you got some? I'll take that. You got some? I'll smoke that. It was great. But then, after a while, it wasn't great anymore. And then by the time it wasn't great anymore, I was kind of locked into a few addictions.
Sure. Yeah.
And basically got to, okay, it's time to clean things up a little bit. And like you said, you kind of get to an age, and obviously I was also married at the time with kids, and things start to become priorities, at least in my life. I don't have just me to be concerned about anymore. There's other people who are going to be impacted by my choices.
Your decisions. Right.
Yeah. And obviously I wanted to be around longer, and I wasn't in a spiral or anything horrible, but I thought, you know what? This isn't going to get any better.
Exactly. Right.
I'm gonna get worse. And so, you and I've had many conversations about things alternative. Right. Things that are outside the box of normal conversation when it comes to Western medicine, for example. Things that people just so here we are, being guys who are, you're north of 45, right? Okay.
Yes, I am.
I'm back without giving an exact number. You're north of 45. As am I. And we have made a choice to clean up our acts, right? We're in committed relationships. We're being responsible adults to the best of our ability, trying to make the best choices possible. And we've always been, in the years I've known you, been explorers of how to expand, how to grow, how to see what we haven't seen yet, to explore what we don't know.
Sure. Upgrade.
Exactly. And we talked a little bit about this the other day, and really the idea of how or what that even means. I know what it means for me. What is it, do you think, that inspired it for you? Is it something that's always been there? I don't even know. Am I even making sense? I wonder if people listening are even...
I know where you're going. I know where we're going right now. You're talking about like alternative medicine, and there's like right now a lot of people, like I think one of the things that's kind of out there trending right now is ayahuasca, ibogaine. I work with vets, a lot of guys with PTSD.
Right. And I've talked to vets specifically, and I'm like, what are you doing? Because I know it's not. People have it. At least the vets I've talked to, people have it. Like it's not curable. It's just something you learn to live with.
Yeah, it's a program. I mean, at the end of the day, ultimately, it's a program. It's obviously something traumatic that happened that is now basically taken over their lives. I mean, that's, and a lot of people, as you know, they have they tried alcohol or drugs, this and that, and it just amplifies. Right. And I've seen it a lot with a lot of these guys that I've worked with, and it's one of the reasons we have this program, Veterans Watch, where we take vets out to the field with us, and it's giving them a purpose. Like Kevin, but my buddy Kevin Murphy is like one of our greatest success stories. Phenomenal guy. He was one of the guys that was on the ground clearing out Fallujah. So needless to say, he saw some shit. He came back and he had some problems with the law and this and that, kind of where I met him. I think it's back in I want to say 2009, I think. I can't remember. I think it was around Isaac. Hurricane Isaac, maybe. Oh, actually, no, it was Hurricane Sandy. I don't even know. But anyway, basically,
I don't know how you keep track.
We base everything on disasters. But anyway,
know, right?
So yeah, this is a buddy of mine, and he, like I said, he was having issues, and he came out in the field with me for over a year. We worked Hurricane Sandy out in Brooklyn for about 7 months, I believe. He was on the ground with me in New Orleans, in Laplace, Louisiana, and Kevin, his words were, you come back from doing something like that, and it's almost like you don't have that purpose. When you're in the military, right. You have a purpose. You have a reason to get up every morning. When you come back, I mean, let's be real, man. It's disgusting the way that our vets are treated.
Yeah,
I mean, it's disgusting, and I don't want to get in a big political rant about that either. But
right.
But
you're doing something. But it sounds to me like you're taking your frustration and doing something with it.
Right.
To counter that.
To counter exactly, and so. This is a program we put together that's been super successful. And one of the things that we along the way, we've heard guys that have been experimenting with iboga root, ibogaine, ayahuasca, or
even LSD and mescaline.
Yeah, and I think there was another one that they're ketamine is another one. This ketamine clinic's opening up in Santa Monica.
And these are all words, at least specifically LSD, mescaline, or mushrooms, right? Mm-hmm. And ketamine or special K. There's all these words which are buzzwords for oh shit, that's illegal and that's a bad drug. I don't think ibogaine and ayahuasca is in the same category. No. I'm separating them out. No, I'm separating ibogaine and ayahuasca or DMT separate from those other ones because it's just the amount of bad press, if you will, that has been propagated upon us over the years. I mean, we're talking decades of how bad it is for us. Now, again, I'm not promoting anybody to go and just do a bunch of LSD, but there is something to be said about the now very open, spoken, proven medicinal qualities of all.
Yeah. Well, isn't it funny though? This is like, think about this. Like if we play this back and listen to it, do you see how we're all like kind of nervous and tap dancing around it, right? But you know what's really funny? You talk about being programmed. Look at the opioid crisis. Look at how many people we have. I think it's the most people in the United States now. Suicide is the number one cause of death in the United States. You might want to check that, but I'm pretty sure I heard that.
I thought it was heart disease still, but I'll check it.
Whatever the case, anyone wants to argue, it's way the fuck up there, man.
Right.
People are killing themselves freaking every day because of the fucking drugs that they're on. And it's like, we're pumping drugs into people. These doctors are writing prescriptions. I mean, Jesus, my grandfather was in his 80s. They put him on fucking Prozac. My grandfather went nuts. We had to get him off Prozac because the freaking doctors put him on. Why are you putting an 80-something-year-old with a heart condition on fucking Prozac?
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. These doctors and it's like you look at, and we're sitting there tap dancing around a root that grows in Peru that has been, that you take for 2 or 3 days and it kicks your addiction. And the success rate is like 90-something%. I mean, every single person that has experienced this has come back with some positive outlook or whatever on their life after, or they've beaten their addiction or whatever it is. They've tackled whatever demons it is in a weekend. You get people that are on, Prozac
that doesn't make the drug companies any money, Eric. Didn't you understand?
Right.
We can't treat that. We need them to be suffering ongoingly.
Yeah. That's right. But you see how accepting we are of those drugs? We're okay with oxycodone, which is like heroin, and we're okay. And again, I'm not saying if you're on it, you should get off it and go do. I'm not saying that. Whatever works for you, hey, whatever. I'm just saying, making a point as to how the stigma around it and how quickly you and I were like, ooh, we're talking about something we're talking about a freaking root, man. We're talking about something that grows naturally that people take that, helps them. So, why not? Why aren't we looking into that? And you just hit the nail on the head because of, that's, again, going back to the CBS special. Our Congress passed a law on the floor to basically prevent the DEA from going after the pharmaceutical companies that are actually perpetuating this opioid crisis. It's mind-boggling that's, it's whatever. It is what it is, I guess. But
yeah, no, I think that, depending on the source that you go to find the top, the number one cause of death, let's just say it's in the top 10 of people killing themselves because of their reaction to. You look at you listen to the side effects, or if you read the side effects of many of the drugs, it's, tendency for anger, tendency to have
kill yourself,
or death wishes,
from your eyeballs. It's like every single thing that could possibly be bad. It's like it's like that drug carries some sort of. And I know they say that because they have to cover their asses.
Of course, they have to.
Man. Yeah, right. But at the end of the day, like
if one person had one. That's right. Bad experience with it, they have to report it. So, obviously, I get it. And, at the end of the day, bottom line, I think what we're saying is that there is a drug epidemic that's not necessarily only perpetuated by the corner drug dealer. It's the pharmaceutical companies that obviously cater to basically treating every commercial on, and here I am, being an actor who's on one of those commercials, but but I'm different, Eric. I'm different.
Yeah. No, but again, everything in moderation, right? But at the end of the day, like I said, it's just to me, we have problems in our country that we can solve, things that everybody can agree on. Again, it's like we look at things and it's so, like you said before, it's so black and white. And it's just crazy to me that we have things in our country right in front of our face when you turn on the TV that are going on that should not be happening. And because we're so divided, they're going to continue doing what they're doing. It's the whole divide and conquer mentality, right? That's exactly what we're seeing, and that's how it's been forever.
So how do we, considering there's obviously a number of issues that, like we said, we can get lit up about, what is it as far as getting back to the rebooting, if you will, or upgrading, if you will. Sure. There's and I'm coming back to the point of, okay, we can be upset, we can be frustrated, but what can we do as individuals? What are we doing as individuals to talk? Right, exactly. To communicate. But there's also something, I think, beyond that also, which you and I have talked a little bit about, is how to take personal stock and transform. Most of us are looking outward as to how to heal, how to feel better, how to have fulfillment, how to feel abundant and prosperous and joyful and love, all that, right? We're looking outward to get that. And unfortunately, not to circle back on it, but we're also looking for a pill. We want it to happen quickly and easily and fuck the side effects. Right. So but I guess what I'm saying is the opportunity to find strategies daily that help us to get out of the program. When I say program, and I think obviously I know you and I are speaking the same language, but the idea that there is a certain story that we have all adopted individually, usually, but some of it's somewhat uniform, right? You wake up in the morning, and honestly, you could probably turn to a number of your friends who who go to work, who have marriages, who have kids, and you could probably predict how the first 5 hours of their day is going to go tomorrow. Right. You could literally probably predict it. And you may be off a little bit, but the basics are there. They wake up, they pick up their phone, they check the time, they check the weather, they go on to Instagram, they check their email. They haven't even sat up yet. They get up, they go to the bathroom, they walk downstairs, they put on the coffee, they have their, we could literally.
Hey, you just described my morning.
Right. You literally, you get in your car, you drive to your job, you sit down, you turn on your computer. I mean, it's like you literally go through the same steps. Call it a loop. It's a narrative, though, that we have created. And
absolutely.
We're comfortable. Mm-hmm. We're comfortable in that narrative.
Yep.
The question is, are you comfortable in that narrative? And if you're not comfortable in that narrative,
what do you do?
What are you doing about it? And I think what, at least in my experience in the past, it's been, you get to a certain point where this narrative is uncomfortable and people are frustrated. So they are seeking other methods of taking something medicinal to help them feel better. And again, I'm not promoting somebody not seek help when help is needed for mental or emotional instability, right? But I'm saying for the average person, the feeling of being dissatisfied or unfulfilled, right? That's being human. I'm not talking about diabetes. I'm not talking about diabetes. I'm not talking about cancer. I'm not talking about heart disease. I'm talking about, I feel sad today. I'm not getting enough sleep. These are things that have, I think, more to do with feeling fulfilled in one's life and having a purpose in one's life. And I think that we go outward to find it. So I guess what I'm saying is, how do you find your way out of the loop, the narrative?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but like meditation for me has been a big one. Just meditating on your day. I mean, like I said, I do the sauna pretty much every day, and that's my time to check out. Check out and check in. It's like I'm basically at that point, kind of. I mean, like I said, I think meditation for me, that's been probably my number one kind of go-to as far as
it is. And you and I talked a little bit about also, first of all, I think there's a misconception oftentimes about what meditation is. People have their own definition of what meditation is. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, but you know, meditation does not have to be some long, drawn-out, ceremonial experience every single day. It can be 5 or 10 minutes of just conscious breathing. But and there's really no excuse like, I don't know how to do it. Go on YouTube. Go on YouTube. You can find hundreds of thousands of people who will walk you through a meditation, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 2 hours. But they'll do it. And I've used many YouTube videos because you know what? Sometimes I'm just having a hard time getting past the noise. And I think that most of us, that's the issue, is we sit down and we go, I can't stop thinking. Well, you know what? Okay, then does that mean you're not gonna push on through? You're just going to give up at that point, at that wall? Because we all think. We all think all the time. It's not going to stop. We're always going to be thinking.
That's right.
I think the thing about what we're talking about as far as meditation is concerned is how to press pause.
Right.
And how to find that gap and how to create that gap and how to find a way to expand that gap, as much as we possibly can for as long as we possibly can. Right. And it does take something. It does take something. And some days, as I'm sure, like with you, some days it takes a little bit more effort than other days. Right. And I use music. I use we talked about this the other day. We talked about binaural beats.
Frequencies.
Different frequencies, 528, 936. I mean, all these different frequencies that are, I would call them aids. They're a support system that helps us to align ourselves vibrationally in a way that gets us to a meditative state a little quicker. In a natural way. I mean, the ability to get to a brain wave frequency that we're talking about, right? Whether was it like 528 or 963 or some of these numbers I might be juxtaposing.
432.
Right. But these, to get to those frequencies normally can take quite a long period of time.
Absolutely.
But so we are kind of skipping a few steps. Right. But in this day and age, it's natural. It's not it's not hurtful. Right. And my feeling is if we can use whatever tools we can to help us get to that place so that 5 or 10 minutes that we are carving out is as juicy as possible.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you said, there are a lot of tools out there to kind of, guide you and get you, because that's kind of where I started too. I just sit in the sauna and put on some meditation and then kind of was off to the races, and it takes some time, because it's like, even when you're doing it, it's like, it's so hard to kind of drill down and stay quiet. I mean, people don't understand how it really is. If you really think about it, in the day we live, everything's such a rat race, to stop for a minute and to just to sit with yourself and be silent. It's not easy.
Nope.
It's not easy. It really isn't. And that's why I think that's why it's hard for a lot of people when you talk about meditation. Exactly what you said. It's not this big ceremonial type thing that you have to light a bunch of candles and incense and, sit Indian style in a dark closet somewhere. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? Like, there are ways. And it has been very beneficial to me. And it's funny how a lot of these things now, it's like, even what we're talking about now, I think when people talk about being woke, I feel like it's more in terms of this. I feel like people are starting to, call it whatever you want, vibrate at a higher frequency, upgrade, whatever it is you want to call it. People are learning that there's more to it than just this, people use the word loop or matrix or whatever you want to call it, or program that we're kind of locked into. We're locked into it at a young age, and we just it becomes almost like a habit, a lot of things. And I feel like meditating, it kind of helps you sort of
interrupt.
Yeah. Or prioritize the things that are meaningful in your life. And it's the more you do it, those things start to fall away. You know what I mean? They start to. It is something. It is a practice. It is something that has to be done on a regular basis. And I said, Exactly.
it's kind of like, and I've said it, we can say it all kinds of different ways, but like scratching the record.
Sure.
That it just that continuous to be able to have the ability just to step in and go stop.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's not. And honestly, that stop, even if it's 3 seconds, right?
Yeah. Right.
If you can get 3 seconds out of it, and then you go to, oh man, I have to that email that I was going to send. Why the hell? Why would she even send that email to me? I'm going to fucking call her when I get off. And all of a sudden you're on that path, right?
Yes.
You have to go, whoa. Stop.
Yeah. Right.
Come back to my breath.
Exactly.
Now I'm back in my breath. I'm breathing now. Oh my God. My mom, she's coming down next week. I have no idea. And now you're on that path.
Right.
Stop.
Yeah, exactly.
And you literally have to kind of exercise that muscle of
that's right.
Being able to stop and come back to
breath. Yeah, right. Exactly.
But I've said this many times on this podcast because it tends to come up because I like talking about it. But it is something that I think I want people to get that it's possible over there with them too, not just two guys who are talking about it on a podcast. But if you're feeling like you're just out of sorts or things aren't going the way you'd like them to be going and you like them to be going in a new direction, there's a way to shift your paradigm.
Absolutely.
Consciously, mindfully.
Yep.
There's a way to do it, and it doesn't require hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's right.
It really doesn't. It doesn't require thousands and thousands of dollars. It requires a willingness.
And a willingness to manifest. I mean, that's really what you're talking about is I think people don't understand. Look, without, it's like they always...
you and I talked about this. The whole notion of how brilliant our bodies are, right? The notion that we take it so much for granted that you don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about beating your heart. You don't have to think about digesting your food. You don't have to think about if you slice your finger open and you have to put a Band-Aid on it. You don't think about healing that cut. It does it. Your body does it. So it's brilliant. And that's only scratching the surface, right? Of how brilliant our body is. Now, the same thing goes for when we are having a thought about something in our lives and that thought, a circumstance occurs, it's raining outside.
Right.
It's a rainy day. It's pouring rain, and you could make up any story you like about it. Many people will say, oh man, it's miserable outside. It's so wet. I can't get anything done. And oh my God, I'm so behind on everything. How am I going to, people can't drive. So we can go down that path of a rainy day, or we can go down the path of, God, I love the sound of rain. I love that it's, it cleans the air. I mean, you know what it's like after a rain? I mean, it's such a beautiful, the sky's beautiful after. Look, I can't wait till it clears up. It's going to be beautiful. I love, the what it's doing to the earth and the trees. And I feel a lot better with the other one, the first, the alternative, the second path than the first one. But both of them are a choice.
Exactly.
I can choose either one.
It's so funny that you use that analogy, only because I went to a bunch of us went to the Festival of Lights. You know what that is? It's like it's like out in it's like, I don't know, 45 minutes north. It's like out in the woods. It's like this forest that they light up with these lights. And it was Saturday night, whatever. It was last weekend. And my friend got tickets, and we were like, it was pouring. Remember last weekend? It was pouring out. Right. Miserable. We're all like, oh, it's cold and it's rainy. It's going to be miserable. And we're like, oh, Jesus. We're all kind of like, everyone's kind of waiting for the other person to go, let's just, maybe we won't go, trying to back out so everyone could jump in. And it was like, we're like, let's just do it. Let's just go. We got the tickets, whatever. Anyway, we went. It was phenomenal. It was the most amazing. It was pouring rain. Yeah. And here we are walking through this like magical forest of like lights lit up. It was so much better because it was raining out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we almost didn't go, because we created that narrative in our head that we were going to be miserable and cold and shitty and this and that. And we were soaking wet and we were cold but we had the best freaking time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So to your point.
Well, right. And I think that, and I've said this many times also, and this is, from a book, Mind Powers by a guy named John Kehoe. And I was listening to one of his seminars, and he says, thoughts, when emotionalized, become magnetized and attract similar and like thoughts. Yeah. And if you break that down, right, like we think thoughts all day long, right? Many of them coming out of God only knows where. And what we do is we either get fixated on one thought or let another thought go, right? But if you get fixated on one thought, especially if it's a thought, unfortunately, that's not a very positive thought, because our reptilian brain likes to prepare for the worst rather than for the best. Like, oh my God, I didn't get that job. Oh my God, how am I gonna? I just started that class. How am I gonna pay for that class? And oh my God, my car payment's coming up. Oh my car payment. If I have to go dip into my savings. Oh my God! And like before you know it, you're in a very upsetting position, right?
And you created
it out of nothing,
out of a thought.
And the thing is, so if we're doing that, and I'm not saying avoid taking responsibility for your life. That's exactly what I am saying is take responsibility for your life. But it's, how can we take responsibility for our life in a way that feels good? And if it's a choice, why not make the choice that fucking feels better?
Right.
I mean, bottom line. I mean, I had an example where I'm like, oh, okay. So obviously I work as an actor, and you go out, you audition for things, a job comes along and you really want that job, and you prepare for it, and you do your job, you go in there, you crush it, you get called back, you go to producers, and you put on hold for the job, and you don't get it. And that's the life of an actor, right? Right. However, when that's over, there have been times in my life where I would be man down for like days in sadness and depression and making myself wrong and less than and unworthy and not a good actor and I'm not good enough and I've done that. Or I can say, you know what? I didn't get that job because there's a bigger, better, more incredible job coming down the line. These guys love me. They don't bring me back because I'm a shitty actor. They're bringing me back. They're going to find a great role for me that's even bigger than the role I just didn't get. So they're both made up.
Right.
Neither of them are quote unquote factual.
Right. Exactly.
But one of them feels a lot better, and I'm less miserable as a result of it.
Yeah. But and it really is that easy. That's kind of like the whole crazy part about it, right? I mean, it really is that easy. It's shifting your thoughts from negative to positive. It sounds so like, I get it. Some people are going through some really serious shit, but I'm saying like that mundane, negativity that creeps in during the day, where, like you said, where you can just kind of go off on whatever, and it just kind of sets the trajectory of that day because you're so focused on something that you're actually creating as you go.
I would just don't even take our word for it. If anybody's listening, I would just for today, even just for the next hour, check in with yourself occasionally and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? And then ask yourself, what am I thinking about? And they're going to correlate.
That's right.
And then ask yourself, is what I'm thinking based anywhere in truth?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying there's times, obviously, where you look at your bank account and it says what it says, and you owe a bill and it says what it says. I'm not saying that there aren't realities in life.
Right.
But I'm saying there is something to be said about, I mean, dude, there was times in my life, man, where I could show you my bank statement and the work I was doing in my own mindful practice, if you will, my meditation and mindful affirmation practice was completely counter to what was in my bank account and what was going on in my career. If I told you what I was telling myself every single day, you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? That's complete fantasy bullshit. And you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, it works.
Yep.
And I'm a testament specifically to it, and I mean specific measurable results. Not like, oh, I feel better. I'm talking specific measurable results.
Dude, so much that you're doing a podcast about it. you know what I mean?
Well, very true, man. I mean, honestly, a lot of the upsets and a lot of the downtime in life, I've had some miserable years in my life, financially, career-wise, drinking, my marriage. I've had some miserable years. And unfortunately, I kind of look at it like, getting on the other side of it, it's like I kind of had to have those miserable years
absolutely
to get.
That's right.
That's not going to work any longer, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore.
Exactly.
And have to take responsibility for it. I had to take responsibility for it 100% and pull on my big boy pants. And you know, the podcast was just an opportunity to want to be able to say it's possible to get over yourself.
Right.
It really is. It's really possible.
Get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way. Yeah, get out of your way and just get on your own side. I mean, to a certain degree. You know what I mean? It's like everything out there, universe, God, higher power, whatever you want to call it, if you believe in that, it's on your side.
That's right.
That's all. I really do. I believe it's on your side. And honestly, I feel a lot better believing it's on my side. There are a lot of people who would argue with me. Fine, then don't believe it.
Right.
And I could not believe it too. Do I have, something scientific I can show you and prove to you? No. But, people say, well, prove to me there's a higher power. Okay, great. Right. How about this? Do you love your mother? Yes. Do you love your wife? Totally. Do you love your children? I do. Prove it.
Right. Boom. Exactly.
You can't. You just, it is what it is. And you trust it and you go with it and you're going to get the results you're going to get. But obviously, I'm just going off now, man.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, it's all true. I mean, like I said, we've known each other a long time, and it's like, I feel we've kind of had the same sort of, what do you want to call it, lifestyle? With me, like I said, a lot of the issues I was dealing with, like even with this job, people are always think that I have PTSD, or ask me about it.
Sure.
And I don't. I would tell you if I did right now. I mean, I've seen some horrible shit. I've seen some terrible things. I've witnessed things that not a lot of people do. I look at it as a privilege.
Well, you said something to me the other day that was incredibly moving to me, and I hadn't really heard it or thought about it that way as to how you have been able to circumvent that pitfall. Considering what you do is your perspective on it. It's really where you're standing when you're doing it.
Right.
And I mean where you're standing emotionally and psychologically, the intention behind it, and to be able to be in Katrina, for example, and suddenly be on duty where you're pulling dead bodies out of the water, and something nobody is prepared to do, and that you got on the other side of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to you before, to me, to be in a situation like that, it's a privilege, it's an honor. To be able to. I look at it as like if I was pulling, one of your family members out of the water, I would be handling that person with care. Like I'm privileged to be in that position. I anytime I'm in the field, it's a privilege to be there because it's, I don't know. I don't even know how to.
I think it goes back to what we were saying. I think you're in that moment. One person could be on that boat going, this is horrible. This is miserable. This is the end of the end of times.
Right.
Look at all this misery. Look at all this sadness. Look and dwell in that. Right. very easily, very easily.
Right.
And with a lot of support from a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And not to say you're dismissing that, but you're also in this position of being able to take on the mindset of being of service.
Right. Yeah,
giving
absolutely.
back, having experience, expressing generosity. And it's just a different place to stand.
Yeah, and right. And look, I look at every situation, whenever we walk into the field, it could be a stranger, it could be my mother. I look at that's someone's mother, that's someone's brother, that's someone's dad, that's someone's grandparents. I mean, it's like we go in it. I always say, if shit hit the fan, you're going to want us showing up in your backyard. You know, I'm not trying to sound cocky. I'm not trying to sound whatever, but I just know the place that we come from is pure as hell, and it's real, and it's you know, we're not. I don't know how to explain it. It's one of those things where it's like I said, I don't know. I mean, I love what I do, and I want to do the best. You know, in this business, and just at this job, I want to be the best at it, and whatever that looks like, if that just means being honest and transparent and accountable, then whatever, man. But like I said, when we go into the field, we look at it like it's a privilege to be there, and we look at every situation. I take it very personal. Everybody, when we go in and we do this kind of thing, I personally take it very personal when we're one-on-one, when we're in the field, and we're, you know, like I say, Texas, from Texas, the latest project, or you know, the wildfires, all the way back to Sri Lanka. I still talk to all these people. I mean, we're really good friends.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I don't know. There are certain people, like they say, people are sort of built for this kind of work or this kind of thing. I mean, it's just a weird sort of business, because it's really not a business. You know what I'm saying?
It sounds like, you know, I don't think people are in high school and college and talking to their guidance counselors about becoming the CEO of an NGO. You know, they may be thinking of like social work or, you know, things like that, obviously, but it's definitely more of a service industry venture, obviously. And, you know, so, I mean, just kind of recapping really quickly, as far as the your breakthrough, at least the one you shared, because I'm sure you've had plenty of them, but the initial one was really that shift or that transition between being somebody who was feeling like, what are we supposed to do about all this pre-Sri Lanka, 2004, for example.
Right. And it was really when my dad, I could probably pinpoint the breakthrough was that. It was not even the accident, wasn't laying in the hospital, wasn't any of that. I think the breakthrough was when my dad said, "Hey, Eric, you can't be sitting here telling everybody that they ain't doing anything. Yeah. You can't sit here and say they're not, unless you don't know, unless you go there and see for yourself." And so we did. Yeah. And, you know, 15 whatever years later, it's like we're still at it, you know, and you know, I love it. I love what I do. I mean, it's made me somewhat jaded and angry, you know what I mean? Because you see suffering that is so unnecessary. That's the whole thing to me, which is so fucking aggravating, and you want to rip your hair out, is how unnecessary the suffering is. Right. It doesn't have to be like that. So many people want to help and get involved and whatever, but we've become this model of charity has been taken over and has been, you know, designed in such a way now where people are getting rich off of
people are taking advantage.
Suffering.
People are taking advantage of it, and
it needs to stop.
It is unfortunate, and it does need to stop completely. Yeah. And for people who are listening again, it's just a reminder that, and this is what I try to do when I talk to people, specifically when disaster comes up. But it doesn't have to be just disaster. Right. Is to look for alternatives, and you know, make up your own mind. But you know, can-do.org,
or you can go to noredtape.org.
Noredtape.org. And you can read all about it. You can watch videos. You can donate there, and make the decision for yourself. That's if we can leave this with any message, is make up your own mind. But do the work and the research that's necessary. Don't just text the number to
or here. Let me leave you with something even better. If you are going to donate, go one step further. If you are going to donate, hold the person that you're donating your money to accountable. make sure that the money's that there's some sort of payoff. You're seeing some sort of result at the end of this,
right?
Because you can give money all day long, but at the end of the day, like I said, is if it's not getting there, there are lots of organizations like my organization, small grassroots organizations that are out there every day in the field that are busting their asses to rub nickels together to make shit happen. And that's what the internet's for. They're out there. You just, again, I think cutting a check to these big organizations, it's getting old, man. It's not really what people think it is. I think we're going to learn more about this as time goes on. You're going to start to see that a lot of these things are going to start to kind of unravel because of social media and everything else. But yeah, I'm not going to go in and stick a camera in someone's face to document something when they're going through their worst tragedy in their life. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're very compassionate to the situation, whereas I will never put anybody on camera unless I have their permission. I will never film something. And again, when we first started doing this wasn't about, remember, we didn't have Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. I mean, we were doing live feeds way back before any of this was social media. This is back in 2006, 2005. We were doing, these, and the whole idea behind what we were doing was we call them donor videos. It was just so our donor, the person that donated money, that's on our list that donated to this certain specific project, they'd get a little video that would show what they did. We'd send them a DVD in the mail. Wow. And that DVD would be like a 7-minute little kind of presentation tour type of thing, almost like a montage of what their money spent, what it did. We'd list how much money that came in and where it went, what it was spent on, and then a little montage of whatever. And that's kind of how we did it for so long.
Right.
Again, but certain disasters, it's different. So it's sometimes you want to be a little more low key because you don't want to exploit the situation that's on the ground, and you want to be, obviously compassionate to the situation that's in front of you. So,
well, I'm obviously a fan of Can Do and what you're doing, and I thank you for keeping up the pretty amazing work that you guys do. And if anybody's interested, again, going to can-do.org, and maybe you want to contribute something, you want to offer support, don't be shy.
That's right.
Speak up. So, dude, thank you so much, man. I mean, it has been a laborious effort getting you nailed down. And I appreciate your, letting me be the squeaky wheel and getting you nailed down, because it was worth it, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, dude. What you're doing here, I love it. And, I'm digging the podcast, man. I'm so glad we finally got to make this happen, because we've been kind of, like I said, I've been in the field and back and forth and this and that. So I'm glad we finally got a chance to sit down and make this happen.
Yeah, completely. So everybody else, thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Stay tuned for more episodes of Breakthrough with Jordan Murphy. And thanks again, Eric.
Thank you.
Today's episode is sponsored by Audible.com and Amazon Fresh. Check out those promotional giveaways on the front page of my website, breakthroughswithjordanmurphy.com. Stay connected on Instagram at breakthroughswithjordan and Twitter at Jordan D. Murphy. And if you have a great story to share, as I'm sure many of you do, go to my website at breakthroughswithjordanmurphy.com and shoot me an abbreviated version of your story to my email. I'll give it a read and maybe share a couple of them on the show.